Good evening, and welcome to Cross Currents, our weekly forum for in-depth discussion on today's most pressing issues. Tonight, we delve into a question that resonates deeply across society. Should higher education at colleges and universities be tuition-free for all qualified applicants? To explore this complex topic, we have two distinguished guests. Arguing for the motion is Dr. Ben Carter, an esteemed education policy analyst. And arguing against, we welcome Professor Sophia Chen, a respected economist. The implications of this debate are vast, affecting not only aspiring students but the very fabric of our economic and social future. Let's begin.
Thank you, Ms. Hayes. I firmly believe that making higher education tuition-free is not merely a generous gesture, but a fundamental social good and a crucial strategic investment in our nation's future. Talent, as we know, is distributed widely across our population, but opportunity, regrettably, is not. High tuition fees serve as a formidable barrier for countless capable students hailing from lower and middle-income families, thereby perpetuating social inequalities generation after generation. By removing this financial obstacle, tuition-free access would create a significantly more level playing field, allowing aptitude and ambition, not financial background, to determine one's educational path. Consider the economic empowerment that would follow. Graduates entering the workforce unburdened by crippling student loan debt are far more likely to take entrepreneurial risks, to start businesses, and to make significant purchases like homes. This, in turn, stimulates economic activity. A more broadly educated populace naturally leads to increased innovation, higher productivity across all sectors, and consequently greater tax revenues for the public good in the long term. Furthermore, making higher education accessible is essential for ensuring we have a steady and reliable supply of qualified professionals. I'm speaking of fields vital for national progress and well-being: healthcare, education, engineering, and technology. We cannot afford to have a shortage of skilled individuals in these critical areas simply because the cost of education was too high for them. In essence, choosing to invest in tuition-free higher education is choosing to invest in our collective future, fostering a more prosperous, equitable, and innovative society for all.
Thank you, Ms. Hayes. While the aspiration for universally accessible education is indeed commendable, and one I share in principle, implementing universal tuition-free higher education presents substantial financial challenges and carries the risk of unintended negative consequences that we must carefully consider. Firstly, it's crucial to address the misconception inherent in the term tuition-free. Education is never truly cost-free. The significant financial burden of operating universities, covering faculty salaries, maintaining infrastructure, providing resources, doesn't magically disappear, it simply shifts. This burden would inevitably fall upon taxpayers, potentially necessitating higher taxes for everyone, including those who do not attend college or directly benefit. Or it could force difficult choices involving significant cuts to other vital public services like healthcare, infrastructure, or primary education. Secondly, we must consider the potential risk to the quality and resources of our higher education institutions. A sudden, large-scale surge in student numbers, which is a likely outcome of a tuition-free policy, without a correspondingly massive and sustained increase in funding, could lead to severely overcrowded classrooms. University resources such as libraries, laboratories, and crucially, faculty-student interaction time would be stretched thin, potentially leading to a noticeable decline in the overall quality and international reputation of our higher education system. Thirdly, there's a valid concern regarding the perceived value of education and its impact on student motivation and completion rates. If education is provided at no direct financial cost to the student, there is a risk, supported by some behavioral economic theories, that it might be undervalued. This could, paradoxically, lead to lower student motivation, less careful consideration of chosen fields of study, and potentially higher dropout rates, as the personal financial stake is removed. Therefore, I contend that well-designed, targeted financial aid programs, such as robust Pell Grants, scholarships based on merit and need, and manageable income contingent loan systems, represent a more fiscally responsible and ultimately more effective approach to supporting students who genuinely require assistance, without jeopardizing the quality or financial stability of the entire system.
Professor Chen raises important points, but I believe her concerns regarding the tax burden and quality can be addressed with thoughtful policy design. When we discuss the cost, it's more accurate to frame it as a public investment. Much like we view K-12 education, public infrastructure, or foundational scientific research. These are investments that yield significant long-term societal and economic dividends, far outweighing the initial outlays. Moreover, the increased future earnings of a larger pool of graduates will naturally lead to higher income tax contributions, partially and progressively offsetting the upfront costs of their education. Regarding quality, it's not an inevitable consequence that standards would fall. Funding models can and must be designed to ensure quality is maintained and even enhanced. This could involve reallocating existing education budgets more efficiently, implementing progressive taxation schemes where higher earners contribute a proportionally larger share, or by finding systemic efficiencies. We can also look to numerous developed countries that successfully maintain high-quality, tuition-free, or very low-cost higher education systems. They provide valuable models. Ultimately, the societal loss incurred by denying higher education to capable individuals simply because they cannot afford the high price of tuition is far greater, in my view, than the public cost of providing it. We are losing talent, innovation, and civic engagement.
Dr. Carter's points about investment are well taken, but the practicalities deserve closer scrutiny, particularly regarding true equality of opportunity and the applicability of international models. While tuition fees are undeniably a barrier, they are not the only one, nor always the most significant for the most disadvantaged students. Living expenses, accommodation, food, transport often constitute a larger financial burden than tuition itself for many. Furthermore, disparities in the quality of K-12 preparatory education and access to essential academic resources mean that many students from underprivileged backgrounds may not be university-ready, even if tuition is waived. There's a genuine risk that universal tuition-free policies might disproportionately benefit students from more affluent backgrounds who are already well-positioned and prepared to attend university, without fully addressing the complex, deep-rooted causes of inequality for those most in need of support. Regarding international models, while it's useful to study them, we must be cautious about direct comparisons. Many countries with tuition-free systems have vastly different tax structures, much higher overall tax burdens, different population demographics, or unique societal contexts that may not be directly transferable to our own situation. It's also important to acknowledge that these countries often face their own distinct challenges with their systems, such as capacity constraints, longer times to graduation, or debates about sustainable funding. This reinforces my view that a blanket, one-size-fits-all approach like universal free tuition is less efficient and potentially less equitable than carefully targeted scholarships, grants, and support services designed to assist those who genuinely need financial assistance to overcome specific barriers.
Dr. Carter, Professor Chen brings up a crucial point. She suggests that eliminating tuition fees alone might not be enough to solve the underlying access and success problems for the most disadvantaged students, who often face significant barriers beyond just the cost of tuition, such as substantial living expenses and varying levels of academic preparedness. In a tuition-free system, what specific mechanisms or complementary policies would you propose to ensure these students are not only able to gain admission, but are also comprehensively supported to thrive and ultimately succeed in their studies?
That's a vital consideration, Ms. Hayes. A tuition-free policy must indeed be part of a broader strategy. It should be coupled with robust support systems. This includes significantly expanding means-tested grants or stipends to cover living costs for low-income students, ensuring they can afford accommodation, food, and study materials. Furthermore, we'd need increased investment in bridging programs, academic advising, and mentorship initiatives within universities to help students from diverse educational backgrounds successfully navigate the demands of higher education. It's about access and success.
Professor Chen, a common criticism of the current system, which Dr. Carter alluded to, is that the high tuition, high debt model acts as a significant drag on our overall economy and places an immense burden on individual financial well-being, delaying life milestones for many graduates. If a universal tuition-free model isn't the answer in your view, what specific, scalable reforms to the existing system would you advocate to genuinely alleviate the student debt crisis and improve accessibility, but without incurring what you see as the substantial downsides of making higher education universally free?
That's the central challenge, Ms. Hayes, balancing access with fiscal responsibility. I advocate for strengthening and expanding income-contingent loan repayment programs. These ensure that repayments are always manageable, tied to a graduate's actual earnings, with outstanding balances forgiven after a set period. We should also significantly increase Pell Grants and other need-based aid, ensuring they keep pace with the true cost of attendance, including living expenses. Additionally, simplifying the application process for financial aid and providing better financial literacy education would empower students to make more informed decisions. These targeted measures can alleviate debt without upending the entire funding structure.
A persistent and central concern in this entire debate, regardless of the specific approach, is the question of sustainable funding. Whether we're discussing a completely tuition-free system or one that is heavily subsidized through enhanced aid programs, the money has to come from somewhere reliably. Could each of you briefly outline what you consider to be the most viable primary funding mechanism for your preferred approach? And critically, how would you propose to ensure accountability and transparency for how these substantial public or redirected funds are utilized by institutions? Dr. Carter, perhaps you could begin.
For a tuition-free system, the primary funding would come from general taxation, reallocating public funds to prioritize education as a core societal investment. This could involve a modest increase in corporation tax, or closing tax loopholes that benefit the wealthiest, making the system more progressive. Accountability would be ensured through rigorous public oversight, transparent reporting requirements for universities on expenditure and student outcomes, and performance metrics tied to funding, ensuring efficient use of taxpayer money to achieve educational goals.
My preferred approach of enhanced targeted aid would primarily be funded by reallocating existing government expenditure more effectively towards proven need-based programs and potentially through public-private partnerships for specific initiatives. We could also explore a small levy on industries that directly benefit from a highly skilled graduate workforce. Accountability would involve stringent auditing of aid distribution, tracking student success metrics for aid recipients, and ensuring that institutions receiving government-backed loan payments are delivering quality education and value, perhaps through stricter accreditation and outcome-based assessments for program eligibility.
In closing, I want to reaffirm the vision of a society where higher education serves as a powerful engine of empowerment for all our citizens, not merely a privilege for those who can afford the escalating price tag. Treating higher education as tuition-free is a profound investment in our nation's human capital. This approach cultivates a more innovative, productive, and, crucially, a more equitable nation for generations to come. The practical challenges, while real, are not insurmountable if the societal will and political commitment are present. We have the capacity to design systems that are both accessible and of high quality. Let us choose to build a future where the doors of opportunity at our colleges and universities are genuinely open to every qualified and aspiring individual. By doing so, we foster not only individual growth, but also a more prosperous, just, and enlightened society for everyone. It is an investment we cannot afford not to make.
To conclude, While the ideal of free access to higher education is attractive, we must remain grounded in the potential realities of its implementation. My primary concerns remain the immense and unavoidable cost to taxpayers, the genuine risk of diminished educational quality due to resource strain, and the potential for devaluing higher education in the eyes of its recipients. I reiterate my belief that robust, targeted support mechanisms, such as significantly expanded need-based grants, income-contingent loans, and diverse scholarships, offer a more fiscally responsible and ultimately more efficient pathway to help students access and succeed in higher education. This approach allows us to address financial barriers directly for those most in need without overburdening the public purse or risking the integrity and global standing of our higher education system. We should proceed with caution, focusing on diligently improving and refining our existing systems rather than adopting universal solutions that may carry unforeseen and problematic consequences. Let us commit to making smart, sustainable choices that ensure both genuine access and enduring quality in higher education, safeguarding this vital resource for generations to come. Prudence and targeted efficacy should guide our path forward.
My sincere thanks to both Dr. Ben Carter and Professor Sophia Chen for their articulate, insightful, and passionate arguments on this very important subject tonight. You've given us a great deal to consider. We've heard compelling cases on both sides, highlighting the core tension between the profound aspiration for universally accessible higher education and the pragmatic concerns surrounding funding, potential impacts on quality, and the very nature of individual and societal responsibility. It's clear that this is an issue of considerable complexity, with valid points and legitimate concerns raised by both our guests. I encourage our viewers to reflect deeply on the arguments presented this evening and to consider the broader implications these different approaches hold for our society and for the future of education in our nation. Thank you for joining us on Cross Currents.